Hello, everyone. This is Malika and Audrey, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Unwind. It's been an entire week since we last saw each other. Lots has happened this week as well. I have still been home, so I'm still in Patna. That's the background. Audrey, on the other hand, has traveled and gone to Slovenia to visit one of our girlfriends and is
I
looking
did.
pretty today. I'm gonna say you're looking pretty because you're looking pretty.
Thank you.
She told me after the last recording, like, do not tell me I'm pretty. Like, it's like, let's just get to the point. We will get to the point. Last week we did talk about habits, and we had a few resolutions. Mine was intentional eating, and going to the gym. I'm actually going to the gym in half an hour, which is good. Audrey was supposed to read 2 books. Has
I
she?
did. I was supposed to read 2 books and I ended up reading I finished one. So the one that I talked about last episode,
Yeah.
Fahrenheit 451, I did finish it. And then I started picking up this new book called Never Split the Difference, and it's basically about negotiations. So yeah, I'm reading it halfway through it, and I'm almost done soon with it as well. So I can probably say that I
You
did
have,
kind of.
you have. Yeah, it's
I'm
fine. It's
almost there in my
almost borderline. Yeah, it's fine. Today, we'll be talking about something far more serious than that. One of the reasons why Audrey and I started this podcast in the first place to find what we love to do. And we quit our 9 to 5s because that was not serving us anymore. I think that's one question that I think most of people in our age, in their 20s, ask themselves every single day, which career is for them? What career choice should they make? So today, we'll be unwinding career choices.
That was one of the biggest. That was the reasons why we called in the first place, right? And why we made this podcast. Because when we
Yes.
first made this podcast, we just took off from our previous jobs and our previous roles. And I think both of us were in a state where we didn't really understand, like, is this the role that I want? Or, like, I thought I wanted this role, but it turned out to be the complete opposite. So we'll try to split it into 3 topics with 3 underlying questions, which is like, the first one being, how should I spend my time understanding that this career is for me or this specific role is for me? And, the second one is, how do we know that when we're already in a position or when we've got the job, how would we know if that this is the final destination and this is the final industry, or should I stop exploring or should I explore more options for me? I think that's the second question that we want to target. And then the third one is also, everyone comes to a point in time where they reach a point in their life where they're like, oh shit, everyone is flying, everyone's getting promotions, everyone's getting a pay raise, or at least getting some sort of their life together, right? They seem to be in the right position for them. They seem to be enjoying what they do, but for some reason I'm not, or you're not. Well, at least for both Malika and I weren't 2 months ago. So I think when it comes to that position, naturally self-confidence and self-esteem is a very important issue. You start understanding, like, what about me? What's in it for me? How do I overcome this? And I think we're going to talk about that as well in our episode today.
But in hindsight, it's been like a month since we have started this podcast as well, which just sounds so unreal at this point. When you said, like, the first thing we'll be tackling today is just like spending time understanding which career choices for us, I think the first thing that I thought of was just trying everything as early as possible. I think, for example, me coming from a small town, like, you're not given multiple options in terms of what all possibilities there are. So you try to, like, think about those 3 things that you've been told and experiment if those 3 options are for you or not. And just, like, for example, content creation, right? Like, this podcast is a sort of content creation, but it was with the intention of just sharing our thoughts with everyone who's probably in the same boat as us. Just trying out different things, and this could not, like, you don't have to, like, give it your all, as in, like, just put all your eggs in one basket and just, like, do that full time. But you could try out 3 or 4 things simultaneously and just see which one makes you happy or which one you want to learn more about, and basically just go that way. Say, I'm a finance major, and so is Audrey. Audrey stuck with it, and I'm very proud of her. Me, on the other hand, in my 3rd year, when I was reading so much about finance, I was like, maybe it's not for me. And I did that major for my ego reasons. Like, it was just like the most difficult major at a uni, and that was just not a very good decision. I did stick through it till the very end, but when it was time for me to get a job, in my 3rd year, The time Audrey, I don't think you know this, but the third year when I'm like, say, like finance is not for me, I still have to complete my degree. I got an internship in sales. Did that for a year up until it did not serve me in terms of I still love sales, but I just do not think I want to do it for the rest of my life. So I did get to know a lot more about that industry to then make that decision. And that's my advice to anyone who wants to understand what they want to do with their lives. What do you think?
When I was in pre-university in Singapore,
Yeah.
I was in Polytechnic. And since 17, I think 18 onwards, you choose a major in pre-university. And we graduate with a diploma instead of a degree. Back then, I was doing business already, right? I have to admit, like, I had a lot of plans for my future. I wanted to go into forensics. I wanted to go into criminology. I wanted to go into like a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? But unfortunately, I didn't have the grades for it. So, like anyone, you go into the most safest like possible option you could have gone to, which was business. And I did that. In hindsight, I personally think that being in business is probably the best thing I could have done.
Yeah.
Right? But given the developments of today's society, I think business is such a good skill set to have today. When I went to business, I did entrepreneurship, I did management, and I did a little bit of marketing projects on the side as well. I did contract marketing projects. Yeah. So when I came to Halt and I came to university here in London, I was like, okay, out of all the majors we had, like entrepreneurship, management, marketing, finance, I was like, okay, I'm going to take the one thing that I've never done before, which is finance, because I've done everything else in Polytechnic. When I got out of uni, when I graduated, right, I've always liked digital creation as well. I mean, that's a reason why I jumped at the idea of this podcast, right? I love editing videos. I love taking videos. I love photography. I love anything creative as well, anything marketing wise as well. And I think in that sense, I got a bit confused when I first went out of uni. I had the biggest dilemma when I first came out of uni. I was like, should I do finance? Is finance what I really want? Or if I don't do something in finance and if I don't do something in business, then like everything I studied for the past 3 years is like gone, right? And I was like, what did I do uni for if I come out of uni to do something completely different? When I quit my job and went to Spain to kind of reflect on myself, I also had the same dilemma where I was like, okay, what next? And what should I go for next? So I think how I spent my time understanding which career for me is like you and I, we discussed it last week, create a roadmap. I created a roadmap for myself. I saw where I wanted to be in 5 years' time. And in that regards, I focus on the steps I needed to take to reach that goal. So it wasn't so much on what career is good for me, but what career can I take to ultimately achieve the goal I want to achieve in 5 years' time. That's my way of seeing it. You set a goal in 5 years' time, and then you break it down to steps, and then understand what careers and what roles will help you achieve, to achieve that skill or to achieve that wealth, to reach your goal in the future. And I did that. So that was how I spent my time understanding which career and what steps to take in the next steps in the future.
That's I think a lot of people will find help with that, and I've done both. So sales fell into my lap very by luck, because when I got that internship in my third year, I just applied to basically everything. I would still say I'm decent at sales. I'd still love to do it. I just did not think it would make me happy in the long term, so I did quit my job. My point being that I've made peace with myself was sometimes you might be good at a career choice, but you do not want to do it long term, and that's completely fine. When I was quitting my job, I thought very hard about who I want to be in the next 5 years and how much money I want to have, what type of life I want to have. Something that I've done is informational interviewing, which we've taught in uni as well. And you go on LinkedIn, you message people who are at positions that you potentially would like to be in a few years, or who are at companies that you potentially want to be. And then you basically schedule a 15-minute chat with them on Zoom or whatever platform, and just talk to them more about their daily life, their day-to-day function, their industry, and basically their job, and just see if you could see yourself in that position or not, or see yourself in that company culture or not. You should spend a lot of time understanding a lot more about that industry and a lot more about their day-to-day life, and a lot more about the prospect as well. For me, as already said, my roadmap was to have my own company. So if I spend 2 years as like the junior level position, my intention would never be to get promoted. So I'd rather find something right now which helps me build skills I need to start my own company in the next 3 years, the next 2 years, and the next year, as opposed to start a job which gives me money but doesn't give me the skills I would need for that long-term goal. And that's basically where my mind is right now. And some skills like sales, negotiation, which you talked about in the beginning, those things you need no matter what industry you're in anyway. You have to sell your idea, you have to sell yourself to job interviewers and so on. And negotiation, you have to negotiate every single thing in your life anyway. So what my recommendation would be is spending time on basic skills like financial knowledge. I spend a lot of my time with my dad right now. I still do not know, you guys, what career is for me, and I'm still like deciding that, but I'm spending my time sharpening the skills that I would need no matter what, which is my financial knowledge, which is my sales knowledge, which is my public speaking knowledge, my communication knowledge, and I'm spending time doing information interviewing about different industries to understand what job is for me, so I can then get that job in Dubai, London, wherever in this world. So that's my process of
I think
doing
yeah,
it.
it's not, there's no fixed blueprint in understanding and trying to understand like which career is for me, which career is for you and us and anyone, right? I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's more so whether can this career achieve the ultimate goal that you're looking for. And it's not easy to know that, right? Not a lot of people, or not everyone will have a goal, or like some people just want to have a career because they like the job and it's easy and it's comfortable, and that's all right. That's completely all right. Everyone has their own way of understanding like which career is for them.
No, I agree 100%. And just on the topic of like spending time, like understanding which career is for me, like one more thing before we go on to the next subtopic is just like, if you have a 9 to 5 job that you're happy with, but you think that you want like try out photography full time, you could always do it part time or do it on the weekends, and like build that to a point where you think that you could sustain on that, and then you could leave a 9 to 5 if need be. But you could always try 2 or 3 things at once and then figure out which one's for you and which one's more sustainable for you as well. And for someone like me, Audrey, I've always found it very, very difficult to stick to one thing. I have wanted to do everything at once, be it YouTube, part-time job, a full-time study. Like, I just want to explore everything possible to understand what I'm good at, but also like what always I could basically build my future and then decide which career is for me. So I've never liked the idea of stopping somewhere and then building that to a point where I'll be really successful in that one industry. So how does one know like that career is for them and they could stop there and basically put everything to build that even more?
I think like I had this friend once, right? We were in uni together, and after uni he was finding for jobs, and he was applying from a range of jobs, from like sales to consulting to
Anything you
project
could get.
management. Not anything he could get, but it was all targeted. But it seemed very random at the time to me. Like, why? But me at that point, I was so troubled. I was trying to like find the perfect job. I was trying to find the perfect like role, the perfect position to start my career. And he told me, he said, it's not about the role, it's about what the role can give you. The skills that you get in terms of management, finance, like maybe you like an Excel sheet. So a lot of things require an Excel sheet, from accounting to finance to even like marketing analytics require an Excel sheet. As long as you know what you want to achieve in that role and what you like, right? Like you like talking to people, so you want to find a job that talks to people. You like to manage people, so you find a job that you can speak to people and manage people. And then as long as you target those things that you want in a job, there's a variety of roles that sometimes do not seem to correlate with each other, but for some reason you will be able to like. It's not about the job that defines who you are as a person, but the skills that you can take away from that role that you enter. and the skills that you learn and the skills that you're able to apply. If you don't, that's fine. You get the same job, your same 9 to 5 for 40 years, you get promoted. That's completely fine as well. Some people want that kind of life. Some people are okay with being comfortable in that one position in one company or 2 companies throughout your life. That's completely fine. But I think, I read this quote. It's a quote by Gary Tan, the CEO of Y Combinator. And he said, in a job, you either learn or you either earn. Either is fine. Best is if you get both. But if it's neither, it's time to quit. That's one way you could see if you like to understand whether is this something you want, or maybe you should move on to something else, or if you got a lot of things that you like, what is something you should choose. I think that's one way of looking at it.
I agree with the learning or the earning bit, but in hindsight, again, I was learning a lot about sales in my sales job, and I was earning decent money as well. I could earn more, but like that's based on what you do. The reason I also quit my job was I was learning a lot, Audrey, about sales, and I think it's always good to learn about sales and different methodologies and different ways to tackle objections and negotiation and all that stuff. But one thing I told my friends when I was about to quit was, I don't want to learn more about this stuff anymore, because like this is not what I want to do with my life. So I think when you're learning as well, it's also about to like understand like if you want to learn more about that topic. So it also depends on what you want to do. And I think one thing that my friend told me, which I think applies, I do not know if it does, but I told my friend I do not know what to do. I do not know what job is for me. I was ranting, very upset. He's like, Malika, listen, it's a job. And people can talk about how much they love their job, which I did at one point, but it's still work. No one wants to work. So sometimes your job is your job to get you buy-in, to get you your means of survival and get your means of luxury or whatever it is, but still a job. So do not stress too much about it, because nobody likes to work 24 hours. Nobody likes to work those all 8 hours. Some people are upset some days, and people are really happy some days. So it goes up and down. So just treat it like a job, and not treat it like it has to be perfect, because there's nothing like a perfect job, you guys.
Yeah, I think that goes into our third sub point, where like, when somehow in life you reach a point where you feel like for some reason you're not getting anything out of this job anymore, and you feel like everyone seems to be, I think this probably will relate to people earlier in their careers, where like maybe you thought this was everything you wanted, or you're like, okay, I'm just gonna grind it out for a few years, and then you realize this isn't what I want, or this isn't what I thought it was, like what I thought to believe. And then you find yourself like kind of like from zero again. But to be fair, I don't think you ever really know what you signed up for until you really get into it. And then when you get into it, then you start realizing the pros and the cons and what you like and what you dislike. And then, of course, when it comes to a point that you really, really dislike it so much, you can't continue on. And then everyone else seems to be loving their own jobs, and everyone seems to be growing and getting promoted and getting paid. And you're like, what am I doing with my life? I think at a certain point, maybe most people might reach that point once in their life, or it could be multiple times, I'm not sure. A friend once told me everyone has their own timelines, and what could be success for another person doesn't mean that you as a person are not successful. If your friend is like getting promoted, getting paid, like climbing through the ranks, and you're just there, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. I think it's way harder to accept that in person, right? Saying all this is so easy, like every other thing in our podcast. But I think at the end of the day, it really takes your experience to understand that, things take time. You want it, you go and fight hard for it, right? But sometimes things just don't work out. And it's not because like, oh, life's shit or you're unlucky or things. It's just everyone has their own timeline. And if you're not getting things now, first of all, as philosophical as this sounds, firstly, it could mean that maybe this just isn't for you. And second of all, it could mean that, it could be for me, I believe everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that. Yeah.
Same.
And you
Same.
not getting the thing you want could actually, like, I truly believe that you not getting the thing you want is a reason, because you're probably going to get something better. More, not better, but more suited for you.
Better.
More towards what you should be getting. Yeah. As a person.
But that doesn't mean you should not work hard towards it. Like, I believe that everything happens for a reason as well. And like, if you
Yeah.
don't get something, get something better. But you should not stop working. By the way, guys, just a disclaimer. Do not be like, I'll just wait for things to
Just
happen.
sit on the
No,
bed and meditate.
gotta wait for it. No, I agree, Audrey. I feel like, yeah, literally, I'm gonna wait for things to happen. I mean, no, it doesn't work that way. But like, and I think especially when you like leave your jobs, and when every single person, like, I was traveling a lot, so was Audrey, and we see our friends who are working, and at 1 p.m. we are going out to like explore the city, or we're just doing things that we would do because we have the time to do so. And sometimes you may feel that people might look down upon you, or you're not doing enough, as Audrey said before. And I'm in Patna right now, which is a very small town in India, and life is like slow here. When you have no job, and when people around you at parties, these aunties ask you, so what you doing, my love? And when you're like, oh yeah, I left my job, and you tell them the entire story, like sometimes you just question your own decisions, and you're like, am I really doing something wrong here? Life is long and things take time. Sometimes some people might take longer than others to find what they love to do, and that is completely all right. In that process, you might feel stagnant, you feel like you're stuck, and you might go crazy. And it's totally fine, because you have to remember that you are still working towards finding something that you love. My therapist told me that sometimes I focus so much on what I'm doing right now, but I have like disregarded my entire process and my progress about what all steps I've taken to get where I am. And it takes a lot to quit your job to like basically identify what you actually like to do and what you want to make your career out of. And you're still exploring different options, which is still progress. And she also said that, Malika, you're a very driven individual. Like, I know that you will not remain stagnant for long. And you have to tell yourself that as well. So sometimes you have to give yourself some reassurance, because you might be sleeping and eating and waking up at 1 p.m. or doing this podcast and then basically just like chilling with your friends. But sometimes your body might need that. Your body might need you to just like relax for a while, and you should not feel guilty about it or make you feel bad about this, because you have worked very hard for a long time for you to be able to do this right now, and you need this. Some people might not have that luxury to be able to do what you do, and that's fine. So, and she said very clearly that you cannot make decisions from a point of fear. You can make decisions from a point of clarity. And when you have so much doubt in your head about what would people think or what people are doing versus what I'm doing, you might not be able to make decisions for yourself that are good for you. So whenever you feel low, just pat yourself and be like, you're fine.
I think the biggest takeaway is that regardless of age and regardless of experience, nobody really knows what they're doing.
No, I agree. I think what's interesting is that when you were in uni, we had like career conferences, and we had like people who were our age then, when we were 17, 18, 19. We had 22, 23-year-olds from SAP and like big companies come to our university to tell us about their life and their day to day. And we were like, oh my God, like they might be doing something right with their life. They're at such a big company. And now we are at that age at 23, and our friends also work at big companies, and they do not know what they're doing. We did not know what we were doing when we had jobs. So it's so easy to like look at someone who's elder than you, working at those big companies, having those fancy titles. But when you are that age, you realize that you do not know what you're doing. You still might be struggling with things that you cannot really talk openly about. So on the outside, everything seems very fancy, you guys, but on the inside, you do not know what's going on. So you should never like judge yourself or compare yourself, because you do not know the backstory, the inside story of things. But yeah, I think that's a very good ending to our topic today, which was unwinding career choices. We talked a lot about spending time understanding which careers for you, how do we know when we should stop, if we have chosen the right one, and how we should never, ever, ever compare ourselves to others, because everyone has their own journey and we should stick to them and be happy and grateful about it.
Exactly. And that's it. That comes to the end of episode 5, because it's such a deep topic that we have today.
Yeah.
We don't really have any resolutions for ourselves because we've literally spent the last 2 months thinking about this for ourselves. But we do have a resolution for you, and that is, everyone gets sucked into the fast-paced life, and everyone, just dives straight into going for the job and going for your 9 to 5. That I think that our resolution to you is that sit down, have a list of, all the things you want to achieve, right? Write down all the skills you want to learn, and understand that is this current position that you're doing fulfilling all the skills that you want to learn and you want to take away. And if it's not, don't go into a crisis. Just understand what's next. And if this is the role that you still want, to stick with it. But if not, try to find something better.
And if you are not currently employed or are still in university or school or whatever, just have a roadmap for yourself and just think about who you want to be in a few years' time. And then think about career choices that will help you gain the skills you need to achieve that position in 5 years' time. But yeah, that's about it for today. I think that comes to the end. Thank you so much, guys, for staying till the very end and for listening to us. We're very, very grateful for you, all of you who are watching us right now. And we will see you next time with another episode on Let's Unwind.
See you.
Much love.
Bye.
Bye.